The controversy is around Manusmriti. People have to understand the context in which those Dharmashastras were compiled and written. Manu, who has written it, who was Manu?
There is a lot of confusion and a lot of a kind of narrative on this historicity is problematic. The Western Indologists did it with Bhagavad Gita, and now our own people are doing it with other texts. The work of a text is to reveal knowledge. It cannot make us do any action. The essential idea which drives the framework, the method, or however you take it, that drives the teachings of the Smriti Shastra is Sanatana.
Okay, welcome back, Nithin sir.
Thank you.
We spoke the controversies around Manusmriti, and what we understood was that people have to understand the context in which those Dharmashastras were compiled and written, and how we can take the best out of it and still apply that to our real lives today. And you also mentioned about daily life activities that are mentioned in the Manusmriti, how to eat, how to even dine every day, how to even respect your food. These are very universal things which can be applied to any human. Doesn't need to be of any jati or caste or any higher upper caste thing, which is generally always told on Sanatana Dharma and Hindu society. So we understood all of that, but I think let's get back to the basics. We would like to understand the origins of Manusmriti, and obviously, if it's Manusmriti, it is Manu who has written it. Who was Manu, and which was the year that it was written? So that let's take the basics of Manusmriti, sir. So it will be easier for the audience to understand what's the context here.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a very important question because there is a lot of confusion and a lot of the kind of narrative on this historicity is problematic because we are, when it comes to say philosophical questions or questions of dharma, moksha, etc., or darshana, the historicity is not really important. It is not important when a text was composed or how it was composed, how it was transmit. They do not determine. They are very interesting questions, no doubt, for intellectual curiosity, but they have no standing. I mean, they cannot be criteria for determining a validity or not of a text, a validity of not of any of instructions in a particular text. The problem that is happening today is this historicist perspective is being used as such a criteria to kind of do an autopsy of Hindu texts. Like you will say that this portion of this text was written at this time and that portion was written at a different time. So this came later, this came earlier, this is authentic, this is inauthentic, this was added by some evil brahmanas, some casteist people. This was all sides of narrative you will get to hear. And they have done the Indologists did it with the Western Indologists did it with Bhagavad Gita, and now our own people are doing it with other texts, be it Mahabharata, be it Manusmriti, whatever it is. The point you have to understand is Manusmriti or any of these texts, they are not historical documents. Their purpose is not documenting history. Their purpose was not to documenting social facts or geographical facts, whatever it is. You will find some elements of it, some interesting tidbits of information there. Fine, there is nothing wrong in studying that. But the problem comes it using those elements as weapons to discredit the rest of the text. To discredit the teachings of the text. Now we have famous Indologists who speak about how, except for perhaps Rigveda, Samhita and all, the rest of it is a invented tradition. Whatever Mimamsaka says, it will be invented tradition. Is whether Veda is Apurushaya, it's an invented tradition. the point is, because these were, in their perspective, are historically later in origin than, say, the so-called earliest mantras of Rigvedic Samhita. So they are inauthentic. So this determination of authenticity on the historicist basis is problematic. Even today, if there is a Veda mantra revelation, then that is as authentic as what was revealed before. It's a different issue whether there can happen a Veda mantra revelation today or not. I'm not getting into it. The point is, the validity or invalidity or authenticity in inauthenticity is not based on the dating of a text or on what point in history one scholar believes it has to have originated.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is, let's understand the value rather than going into the linear history of it.
Rather, I'm saying don't use... See, when we speak about linear history, whether the time is linear or cyclical is a philosophical debate again. As a Hindu, we do not subscribe to linear notion of history.
Exactly.
But nevertheless, even if we say for a limited period of time there is linear history, there's nothing wrong in studying history per se. But the more older you go, more into the past you go, more the evidences are very shaky. It is all inductive. You are mostly speculating. You have a little bit this much of evidence and you are speculating this much. So you have to think about how accurate they are.
Correct.
So because the same evidences can be interpreted 10 different ways.
Yes.
Right? One example was B.B. Lal, the great archaeologist. In his early writings, he was kind of a supporter of Aryan invasion theory. But later he changed his views, and the same evidences which he thought was supporting Aryan invasion, later he showed that they show that there was no invasion, there was no migration. Right? The point I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying that
perspectives can change.
The point I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying historical inquiry is wrong or geographical inquiry is wrong, but one who is doing it has to be very, very aware of the limitations of it. How the evidence we have is very, very small, and we cannot jump into fanciful conclusions that undermine the philosophical basis of these texts, the teachings of these texts. And most importantly, when a particular text was composed, or when a particular idea you believe came into existence, it cannot be a criteria for its validity or invalidity. This is the point.
Okay.
So with this understanding, if we have to answer your question about Manusmriti and its origination and all. So the first chapter in the book is on this, the origination, transmission and authorship of Manusmriti. There I show that I differentiate between one, which is the current extant text that is available to us. That is the what we study as Manusmriti, the extant text. And it has around 9 Samskrita commentaries and all. So this extant text is what you can date. That is again speculative dating. But still it is some sort of dating. You say the Indologists say that, some scholars say Manusmriti, the extant text, is composed between 2nd century BCE to 2nd century CE. Many others say it is between 2nd century CE and to 4th century CE. Sometimes in Gupta period and Sunga period and all.
Okay.
It could be. There is no way to... Even they cannot say it for sure. It is again all a speculative dating. But even accepting that as tentatively true, the correct approach is not to use it to make philosophical or theological claims, or to speculate some social or political happenings as influencing a certain teaching in a text.
Right.
That is where it is problematic. Definitely, a text also exists in human society, it exists in history. Fine. Dharmashastras are also contextualizing the teachings to address contemporary issues. Fine. But we have to understand what is the basis of those interpretations of Dharmashastra. What is the basis of their teachings of Dharmashastra? It is the basis is not determined how to justify certain actions in the society. It is not the purpose of the Smriti to justify human actions. The purpose of the Smriti is to reveal what is Dharma and what is Adharma, so that we can examine our actions and see where we stand in this prism of Dharma Adharma. The purpose of Smriti is not to justify our action. Say if a criminal murders a person, so it is not the work of a Smriti to justify that action. The Smriti's work is to tell what is Dharma, what is Adharma. That's it. So even when you read the Smritis, even if it is say it was composed in 2nd century BC or 2nd century CE or Gupta, Shunga, doesn't matter. The essential idea which drives the framework, the method, or however you take it, that drives the teachings of the Smriti Shastra is Sanatana, is the Dharma. It is what has been taught by the Rishis.
It is eternal.
It is eternal.
Yeah.
So, and that on eternal basis, certain advices and recommendations and descriptions could have been made to address certain situations.
Yeah.
But you cannot use that as evidence to say that, oh look, these texts were manipulated at those times. These texts brought in all these problematic things in our society. Before that, we had a completely different society. That makes no sense.
Correct.
A text cannot compel anybody to action. It cannot create any social changes. Shankaracharya in his Bhashya says that the work of a text is to reveal, its nature is to reveal knowledge. It cannot make us do any action. It is up to us whether we use that knowledge, how we use that knowledge, whether you use it for our benefit or whether we are simply happy abusing it. But the knowledge is like a sun, it reveals, right?
Yeah.
So now the second thing to understand is when we are dating these texts, the assumption is that Manu must have lived in 2nd century BC or 2nd century CE and written this text. Or somebody wrote this text and put the name Manu just like that, just to increase the acceptability of it. It's as if all our ancestors were frauds.
Right.
If it was really so, then why would the first chapter of Manusmriti has this narrative structure which makes it clear that the current author of the current text is a different person? The narrator is a different person. Because the first chapter of Manusmriti is very, very interesting. It deals with the narrative structure. A group of sages approach Manu and ask him for instructions about Dharma. See, Manu is not going about creating laws to implement hegemonically. People came to him to ask for instructions, so he is telling them. Otherwise, what the first verse say? Manum me kagram asinam. He was sitting in one-pointed meditation. And then, as a course of discussion, when the rishis asked this question, Manu in turn says that, gives a very condensed view of Srishti and the Dharma, and then say, I have taught this to Bhrigu and other sages, now you can learn from him. And again the Manusmriti clarifies that this teaching originally Brahma taught Manu, and Manu then taught these 10 rishis. And Bhrigu says, just like I had learned this in the previous time, now I am narrating it to you. What does it mean? The narrator, who is the author of the extant text, he has deliberately included this. He has deliberately showing that the current text is based on an earlier text or earliest tradition. What it is showing, we have to distinguish between the Dharmashastra, the Shastra tradition, and the individual text. And this is true not just for Manusmriti, but also for in Kamashastra tradition or Vedanta tradition, any tradition. The Shastra Parampara, Kamashastra Parampara, Dharmashastra Parampara, Moksha Studies, doesn't matter. Shastra Parampara is Anadi, and it has been transmitted in Guru Shishya Parampara for a very, very long time. You cannot date it back. All dating will be speculations, because based on any work that you did, there will be previous works in that same tradition. So, we have evidence. In the Manusmriti itself, it is saying that originally Swayambhuva Manu composed a text and then he taught it to 10 rishis. So, there were 10 schools of transmissions.
Correct.
And this is reiterated in Narada Smriti. It speaks about the origination and genealogy of Dharmashastra tradition. What the Narada Smriti says is, it says that Swayambhuva Manu originally composed 100,000 verses, a big treatise.
Yeah.
And later it was redacted 4 times at different times. The last redaction recorded in the extant text of Narada Smriti is that the Manusmriti contained 4,000 verses.
Okay.
Our text contains 2,650 verses. So that means at least there were 3 to 4 redactions before the composition of the current text. So what does this mean? And redaction is a creation of a new text. It is not the cherry picking of verses from previous texts. No, you are condensing the entirety of the knowledge, or at least the essence of the knowledge of the previous text in the Shastra text, and representing them in a newer, shorter text. So that means that the Shastra is very old. The text you can date it to 2nd century CE, but you cannot date the Shastra. The Shastra, the knowledge which is there, it is very old. And it has been transmitted for thousands of years in a Guru Shishya Parampara. That is why the first chapter includes this knowledge, this memory, that we can trace back this Guru Shishya Parampara, this whole tradition back to Bhrigu, and then to Manu, and then to Brahma.
Yeah.
So we have to have this knowledge. In Mahabharata also there are multiple mentions of how in different recensions this Dharmashastra was transmitted. So all this evidence, only if you ignore these evidences as simple fantasy, only then you have the question, when was this text composed? Then you again make more speculations.
Yeah.
Right? But if you take the evidence which is available to us in entirety, then the kind of conclusions will come very differently. Yeah. So at the end of the day, there were previous Shastra. The Shastra is older. The Dharmashastra, which was carefully preserved in the Guru Shishya Parampara, that was redacted again and again, and later this current extant text was created out of that to reflect that teaching. Right? The text is not simply somebody put all the kinds of things that he wants to create in society. No. It is about Shastra tradition. Whatever the Shastra knowledge is there, it is being genuinely, sincerely and represented in a condensed manner for the Loka Kalyana.
Yeah. It is the same even with, because we have a course on Natya Shastra. I am also learning about that. It's the similar story about, in place of Manu Maharshi, it is Bharata Muni, coming from Brahma himself. And then Bharata Muni has 100 students, and then he passes on the knowledge to 100 students of his, and then that's how, and they learn and they make a presentation, and that's how it got into the world. So it's a similar story.
And same in the Kama Shastra also.
Yeah.
Bhagavan Shiva reveals it to Nandi, and from there are many different teachers who redacted, who expounded upon a particular section of it, and they were all scattered. So Vatsayana, what he did was, he gave a very condensed representation of the entirety of it, so that, the older things were lost, more or less lost. So he revived it through it as a condensation and compilation.
Right.
Yeah. So this is happening across, that is Hindu.
All our Shastras.
Our Shastra landscape. This is the reality.
Yeah.
So it is not about one text or one author.
Correct. So, so talking about that, right? So what are the, like in the previous talk, we spoke about the controversial things and stuff like that. But what are the, and you also mentioned that how Manusmriti can be used for daily living as well. But in terms of, if you want to do it as core chapters, what all does it cover?
It covers many things. And if you go into micro level, there are much more things than becomes visible at a macro level. So at the macro level, if you divide it into chapters and all, or if you divide it into large content based, the first chapter is Srishti Kanda. It's about cosmogony.
Okay.
So when the rishis ask about dharma, Manu does not jump in to speak about dharma.
Okay.
He speaks about Srishti.
The creation itself.
Yes, cosmogony itself.
Okay.
And how different beings were created and how humans were one among them.
Wow.
And this is a very important chapter because it helps us, it shows us that we should not go around the subject from an anthropocentric point of view.
Not from a very human perspective, but all
from
the species.
A cosmological perspective. We have to realize that we are just one among the many beings of the cosmos. And dharma is something which is applicable to all of them. The paribhasha, the teachings could be different for different species, but ultimately dharma is that which leads everybody to well-being. So it is not a human-centric world. We are not some superior who is at everybody is at our feet. It is not that.
Yeah, it's nature.
We are inseparable part of this nature, this universe. So and our actions we are interdependent on this. So our actions have a cosmic meaning and cosmic context also. So all life becomes yajna. Right? This is the idea. All life becomes yajna. So that is what even Purusha Sukta reveals. All life is a yajna. And the other reason is Manusmriti wants to situate our apara dharma, that is our vyavaharika dharma, that is what we do in our day-to-day life, be it Samanya dharma or varnashrama dharma, raja dharma, vyavahara, prayashchitta, all of them, it wants to situate them as a limb or subset of paradharma. Paradharma is moksha. So what it is showing is all these activities that I am teaching, when you do it properly, they are all the content of your karma yoga. Bhagavad Gita speaks about how to do karma yoga. But what to do in karma yoga is given in the Smritis. The content of that karma yoga. And when you do it such way, then you attain Parabrahma through preparing you to have a Chitta Shuddhi and then eligible for Jnana Yoga and moksha. So that is where Srishti it begins. And after Srishti, then we have about a long discussion spread over many chapters. First on the Brahmana Dharma, and within Brahmana Dharma, all the four ashramas are also given: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, and Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. And also teachings about food. What is prohibited, what is useful, can we consume meat, if you have to consume meat, what format, what meat could be consumed, or what is the method of consumption of meat, and without causing negative consequences, or what are the karmic consequences of consuming meat. All these are discussed. And then there is under Kshatriya Dharma, it speaks about Raja Dharma, it speaks about Vyavahara, which is legal jurisprudence. All the 18 acts, civil cases, criminal cases. In civil cases, all this, property dispute, inheritance, husband-wife disputes, all these are there.
So just to interrupt, so has these subjects, what are they which are covered, has it been somewhere or the other, our constitution, is it inspired from many of these?
In a sense, yes, in the sense that these are the subject matters is present in contemporary jurisprudence also. Right? So all these civil matters, inheritance or property dispute or contracts, they are very much part of the contemporary world also. Right? So similarly, criminal, assault, rape, adultery, and all these are relevant today also. Right?
So property matters are probably relevant, but I think what one of the podcasts we also discussed about general Dharmashastras. What he mentioned was personal laws are not taken from there because personal laws became secular later.
Yes, I mean, we are living in a very kind of a bit problematic here, because we have a Hindu code bill which kind of homogenized personal law. So they are kind of based on Dharmashastra.
Okay.
But on the matters in which they are there was a lot of diversity on the ground based on community also.
Yes.
So they removed those diversity, and so that leads to a problem.
Right.
So the Dharmashastra always say that you have to balance between Shastriya tenets and the Lokachara or the Kulachara or the various acharas of those communities.
Right.
So now there is an element of Dharmashastra definitely in the Hindu code bills, but the way it has been done is quite un-Hindu.
It's been homogenized. They have not seen the local context. It's been just
and homogeneous, and there is all this whole thing is kind of secularized also, in the sense that we had no notion of a diverse in the way it is there today. Like you go to a court and fight a diverse case, and we did not have that. We had separation. We had a notion of separation, that husband and wife separated from each other, but it was not in the way it is there today. I'm not saying it is good or bad. I'm merely saying that there is a difference.
Yeah.
But again, this is again another area that needs more studying, more research. People have been now, there have been many studies, many research into the Dharmashastra in legal matter. But still the Dharmashastra worldview of karma phala is something, it has not been imbibed or understood or internalized. It is not the basis of current law. Karma phala understanding is not there, right? After and Vyavahara, there is again in the Raja Dharma and all. Then there is about Vaishya Dharma, Shudra Dharma, and the Samanya Dharma, which are applicable to everybody. Those who are neither belong to any of the Varnas, any of the Ashramas, all of them, that is also there. And the duties in normal conditions, duties in emergency conditions and all. And then there is a chapter on Karma Yoga. There's a chapter on Prayashchitta. If you deviate from Dharma in your practice, then how to do Prayashchitta, right? So that you can get rid of the Papa, the karmic demerit generated by your action. And then there is a section on Karma Yoga, comes at the very last. Again, concluding in Moksha, that Vedanta and Moksha. So this is the overall.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, in these there are very, very micro level, there are many gems, many tidbits, many maxims for life, many good advices, good habits. So I already gave examples for that.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book, sir, the Chatushloki Manusmriti. Whatever I have understood, I have not read it, but you have focused on the first 4 shlokas of the Manusmriti. So the question is, why the first 4 and why only 4?
Okay.
So talk about your book, sir.
Okay. So in our tradition, we have a kind of a precedence for focusing on 4 shlokas. We have this Chatussutri Brahma Sutra, wherein Brahma Sutra is, I think, 555 sutras or something, and there is a focused study on the opening 4 sutras. So that is called Chatussutri, because the opening 4 kind of it gives a condensed perspective of the essential teaching of Brahma Sutra. Likewise, in the Bhagavatam tradition, there is a study of Chatushloki Bhagavata. It is not the opening shlokas, but from one of the chapters wherein 4 shlokas are there, which are considered the most essential teachings of the,
where you will get the entire essence of the whole.
The tatparya of the tattva of the entire Bhagavatam.
Got it.
Now, there was no such similar text for Dharmashastra. And when I was studying on this Manusmriti, I realized that first 4 verses are very, very key, because they provide a gateway to understand the entire Dharmashastra tradition, the entire Manusmriti, but entire Dharmashastra tradition. So I would not say that 4 verses is a condensed teaching of the entire essence, but they provide the essential material a foundation to understand the entire text. And of course, they do list the very essential teaching, that is what the Dharmashastra purpose is, that is to tell dharma, and the framework is varnashrama, a ritualistic framework. So that pretty much covers the matter of the entire thing in a symbolic sense.
It's like a synopsis of this.
Synopsis. So it is not a purely condensed teaching in that sense, but it is also not a non-essential teaching. It is also showing essential elements of the teaching. So the way I describe it is as a gateway to understand. Why is it a gateway? Because it is teaching about Anubandha Chatushtaya. So in the Shastriya format, most of the texts, they are self-conscious in the sense that they know what is their purpose, what is their utility, who is their audience, and what is the subject matter. They declare it at the outset most of the times. So in the case of Manusmriti, this Anubandha Chatushtaya is embedded in the first 4 chapters. First 4 shlokas. So that is why Chatushloki Manusmriti.
So who is eligible? What is the subject matter? What is the what is it? Adhikari, Prayojana, Vishaya,
and Sambandha.
Sambandha. Yeah, these 4 things. They're like, what is your eligibility? What is the subject matter? What is the relationship?
Subject matter, the end result.
End result, Prayojana, the fruits of it. Yeah. So that is what it.
Yes. And I think this is very, very important. And once you have clarity on this, then reading and interpreting the text in a proper manner is made possible.
Right.
There are many more things we need to know, but this kind of lays a strong foundation, a proper foundation on which a genuine study can be undertaken.
I always keep saying in my podcast and even in my course promotions and all that, sir, that the way any teachings that Indian knowledge system teaches is to remove layers of veil on your eyes and to see what is real and what is unreal. So I think the short reading of these 4 slokas of this Manusmriti, that what you have written itself, will that help in somebody to transforming themselves, to know about themselves, to know about their origins? Does that help? Or
I strongly believe so.
Okay.
It helps in understanding, having clarity on what is dharma.
Yeah.
Because the path for self-transformation
is dharma
begins
with dharma.
With dharma. And for that, we have to have clarity on what is dharma.
Yes.
Right? So, the 4 shlokas are very important too, because they tell us what exactly is dharma and how to go about understanding the Dharmashastras which teach dharma. So, we have to have a basis on which we practice dharma. It's not that anybody and everybody say whatever I am doing is dharma.
Yeah.
I am smoking, it is dharma. I am drinking, this is dharma. I'm just taking an extreme example, right?
No, people do that.
So, we have to have a sure basis. And dharma, as I mentioned earlier, abhyudaya nishreyasa, these are all not empirically verifiable. So, you cannot see it with your eyes, you cannot hear, use your senses to directly perceive them. Punya, Papa, Swarga, Moksha, Chitta Shuddhi, etc. You cannot simply infer them. You cannot use any other sources. The only source available to you is Shabda. The Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, the Shastra Pramana.
Yeah.
So this book, Chatushloki Manusmriti, is a gateway to make a journey on a authentic footing into these texts. And I am repeating this again, the ideas, the clarifications and the given in this book is not only relevant for Manusmriti, it is not only relevant for other Smritis, it is relevant to study across all the Dharmashastra texts, even including Itihasa, Puranas, Vedas, Upanishads. Wherever you study on the matter of Dharma, these ideas have to be kept in the background. Otherwise, we will end up in a kind of a misleading conclusions.
Yes. And the first the very trivial thing that has happened, the translation of dharma also has gotten skewed. It has become a meaning for religion, which it is not. Religion is only a small part of dharma.
Right? A big part, but it is a part.
Yeah, it is a part. What I'm trying to emphasize is that it's not just religion.
Exactly.
Dharma
there is no word for dharma in English.
Yeah.
It has a religious aspect, it has a social aspect, it has a cultural aspect, yes. It has ethical aspects, it has ritualistic aspect, it has a spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it has a well-being aspect.
Yeah.
So we have to define it. If you have to translate it, then dharma is a path for overall well-being.
So with that note, I think we can conclude this episode, sir. Thank you so much to share your insights.
Thank you
and
very much.
I hope the book does really well and many people read it, and also they watch this podcast as well. So thank you so much for coming all the way from Mysore and sharing your thoughts and spreading this word of dharma to people. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Praveen, for the invitation.
Thank you, sir.